Hi, everyone, and welcome to our virtual facilitation discussion with two professional virtual facilitators here with us to share their wisdom. Let me move us on. So our agenda today, we'll do a quick welcome, and then we're going to hear from one of our virtual facilitators for the Storytelling for Social Change program, Mustafa, and then Don, another virtual facilitator in that program, and also someone who worked with us in our class. We're going to talk about some terminology and provided some resources for anyone who's considering going into virtual facilitation as a part of their career. And then we'll open it up for some time for some questions, and then we'll close it out. Feel free at any point to jump in chat. We're also a small group. So, raise your hand. As folks lead, they'll let you know how to engage, whether you could just kind of ask a question or they want you to wait to a certain time. Just we'll cue each other as to how we're going to be running this. And while I'm facilitating, if someone just wants to jump in and say, hey, Melissa, I have a question, I'm perfectly fine with that. I usually don't lose my stream of thought too badly. But welcome to this call. This is our capstone event in our class, virtual small group virtual facilitation. And we're so excited to have folks here, and for the folks that will be watching later. In this class, what did we do? Well, we had several objectives, right? We learned to identify and use best practices in virtual communication, recognizing that when we are face-to-face and in the same space with people, we communicate in a different way than we do when we're on a screen, right? And there are things that we need to think about about the way that people understand each other and engage with each other, both through video and through chat, right? And writing in technology. We learned different ways to engage participants. We talked about kind of polls. We engaged in breakout rooms. We talked about using forums and how to elicit questions, how to keep students and young people or adults that we're working with talking, kind of asking those questions. We learned how to manage synchronous discussions. We talked about time management, how to address when there's, rising tension or conflict, or maybe something comes up that might be hurtful and we want to hold it somewhere else and allow someone different space to engage in that thought or that discussion. We also talked about intercultural communication. So this course is full of people from lots of different places. For our YES alumni, they all had the same experience of coming to the United States and spending a year kind of engrossed in a different culture. And we're really excited to have had you all in this and have you all thinking about virtual facilitation, because your experience in being someone who came to another space, especially as a youth, right, and had to navigate similarities and differences and be able to share who you are with folks, and then be able to go home and share who the people were that you were with and what their culture was like. That's incredibly important for young people as they're starting to do virtual facilitation from anywhere in the world, because they have to gear up really quickly, right? And they have to try to understand someone who may react to things differently, may use different words than they would use, may not use the same types of facial expressions, right? And they have to start to understand those cues in a very different space. So having someone like you who have experienced that, right? And can talk about, like, it's okay to not understand sometimes, and it's okay to ask questions, right? And it's okay to, also to think about your own assumptions, right? Like, I'm feeling it this way. Does that mean that they're feeling it the same way? Right? Like, having you have that real life experience is incredibly valuable for anyone that you're going to be leading in, especially in a virtual facilitation space. We talked about techniques to foster rapport and trust. And then, we talked more, and you practiced technical proficiency, especially using the Collaboration Center, our learning management system, going through a course in there, understanding what it feels like also as a learner, right? To have to engage and have to speak in that space as someone, and Mustafa and Don both do this, right? As someone who then goes in as an instructor, as a leader, as a coach, as a mentor to support young people in there and help them elicit questions, bring them out in that space, it's incredibly valuable to have been a learner in that space and to be able to think about it through that lens. So those are things that we've done in this course. It's been a lot, right? There's been a lot of great learning. And so we're excited to move you on to hear from the professionals. So Don, do you want to actually start us off with this slide? And I think then we move into Mustafa's presentation.
Sure. Well, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me today. I'm really excited, and I'm just excited. I guess I'm kind of always excited, but one of the things I wanted to share is terminology and resources. So as you are thinking about, continuing your own engagement and being a virtual facilitator or being a facilitator in the virtual space, I wanted to share 2 places where you can learn more about the glossary, like sort of the facilitation glossary is a bunch of terms that would help you kind of like understand, every practice or industry has some terminology, and knowing what others are saying when they're talking to you. Like if Mustafa and I are having a conversation, there might be some words that we would use because it helps us with our shared understanding. So that's why I wanted to share these, the typology and the glossary. So when you are developing as a facilitator, you can also, start learning these words. One thing to understand is that virtual exchange is like an umbrella term. I always say it's like saying shirt, right? Like, what kind of shirt? A shirt with buttons, a shirt with a hood, a shirt, so virtual exchange can mean many things, but ultimately it's about, and I bolded at the bottom, it's a people to people experience that involves something intercultural. To me, that is the most important part. That is the exchange. So the virtual exchange is much different than if you were just taking a class online, right? Like that's all you. That's just you doing stuff, maybe, submitting a couple posts or something. But virtual exchange and deliberately, intentionally involves people to people and something intercultural. So if you always keep that in mind, you're always going to be on the winning side. Virtual exchange around the globe can be called different things. In the US, sometimes the word COIL is used. In Europe, sometimes you hear the words telecollaboration or e-twinning. In Latin America, I've heard terminology like global digital exchange or global digital classrooms have been used. So these are just things to keep in mind. These are also inside the typology and glossary. And that's what I'd like to share. Happy to answer questions if anyone wants to pop them in the chat, or later on if something comes to you and you'd like some clarity. I know that Melissa will share this with you, so you could certainly access those and bookmark them. And I have many more resources to share. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah. All right, and now I'd like to introduce our virtual facilitator, Mustafa. Would you like to take it away?
Yes, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Don, for this introduction. So hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to connect with such an inspiring group of YES alumni. My name is Mustafa, already introduced by Melissa. I'm here to share my journey with iEARN. From being a student, my story is a little bit unique, because I started being a student with iEARN and not a facilitator, a student at the age of 40. So this is what makes my story, you see, Don, makes my story very unique with iEARN, because I was an inspector of high school when I started being a student. It means I was just getting inspired when I went to see a teacher in her classroom, she in her classroom, and I found her working in project-based learning. And at that time, as an inspector, at that time in Algeria, we have introduced a competency-based approach in our teaching and learning, in which we incorporate project-based learning. But it was a big challenge. It was a big challenge because no one was trained for this. And when I saw what the teacher was doing, who is now a co-facilitator, that my friend here knows her, it is Khira, I was very inspired by the work she was doing. She was very advanced as compared to the reform in Algeria. So I said, I have to learn something. And I registered, I registered, and then I became a student. So this is the beginning. My story with iEARN began as a student. I participated in collaborative project that connected me with peers globally. As you see in picture number 1, I am with the co-coordinator, with the country coordinator, sorry, but I was a student. And look at my back. I'm very old, okay, as my age. I want just to show that it's never too old to learn. Okay, so I got connected globally. So these experiences were transformative. They taught me the power of global teamwork, because I was always working with my friends locally. But here I was working collaboratively, but globally. And I addressed global issues from local perspectives. When I transitioned to facilitation, then I became a facilitator. After 1 year of being a student, I became a facilitator. So you see in picture 2, I started working with teachers locally. Okay, I try to transmit the idea of project-based learning. So you mean the beginning of my facilitation was not online, it was in person. So because I wanted teachers to understand the idea of project-based learning that I learned virtually with my friend globally, thanks to iEARN. So this is what makes my story very unique. So this was a vital step to ensuring students were equipped for meaningful collaboration. Later, I began facilitating directly with students, because after 5 weeks with teachers, we started to work with students on their projects. So I started applying my knowledge and skills to support them as they work through assignments and projects. But I didn't stop here. I started to move. If you look at picture number 3, always facilitating what I have learned with the states near mine. That means I started moving from being a student to my state, to the nearest state. So I started working with other teachers. And of course, I always end my in-person facilitation with providing certificate to teachers, as you see in picture number 4. And what happened, this group of teachers in different states in my country, they started applying what I gave them with their students in picture 5. And of course, always at the end, these students, some of them participated online with iEARN in some project, and then they got their certificate of completion in picture 5. We'll move to the next one. Thank you. My story didn't stop here. My story didn't stop here because, as you see here, I worked on the Bridge program. I think you know about it. It is building respect through international global education, always implemented by iEARN. And as you see, all the people that are in the picture on your left, these are all inspector of high school in Algeria. but in one region, it's not nationally. It's only one region, as you know, that the country is very large. So it was in a British exhibition of students. So I said, this is a good opportunity to invite inspectors of English, because I wanted to spread the idea of facilitation around the country. So I invited, as you see, a group of high school inspectors. And on the picture on the right, it is the same idea. The doors of the US Embassy in Algeria were opened for us in order to train other inspectors of English. This, we were in the embassy, in the US Embassy. It was for the Chris Stevens Youth Network, another program implemented by iEARN. So you see how we managed smoothly to spread the idea of iEARN around the country little by little. So this was regionally. So you see, I moved locally, regionally, and the next picture, as you see, it is internationally. Yes, Melissa, the next picture, the next slide, sorry. Yeah. So you see here, as a volunteer with iEARN, we started working with people from Africa, some countries from Africa, and the US. And I was as a facilitator, but as a volunteer. So what I'm saying to my friends here, the YES alumni, that we also work as volunteer if you want to grow professionally in facilitation. So what I do here as an idea for my friends here, the YES alumni, is that, you know, at the end of maybe in 3 weeks of work, I always try to motivate the teachers with something I create very simple, as you see in the middle. It is a Wordle. These are just ideas, okay? This is a Wordle. What I put simply, I just put the names of the countries that are participating, like Uganda, Mali, Cameroon, Algeria, the USA, and so on and so forth, including some names from America, names from Mali, from Uganda, from Kenya. You know, this is just to, you know, people are happy to have a word like this created by a facilitator. On the left, you have, it is individual card. It is an individual card that I sent to teachers who are participating in the program, just to encourage them. You know, they are happy. They are happy because they see that the facilitator is interested in them as a human. And I create this specially for them with their flag, with their picture, and even with their character. For example, if I look here at Bello, who is from Cameroon, I just, you know, because we have weeks to work with them, I knew that Bello is someone who was very optimistic. And I just put it, so he was very happy. So we got a very good relationship. It is the same thing for Jennifer from the US, who is on your right. So you see, I know that Jennifer, she is a researcher. She is very energetic, and she likes to have her Wordle. Okay, so you see, it is something very simple. It is something very simple that I created just with the internet. You know, there are tools that you created in maybe in 2 or 3 minutes, and that you put in the platform. They are all happy, and you know, we grow together. So this is another way of facilitating. Okay, it is one way. Okay, you may get inspired. So we move now to the next slide. Of course, now I had the chance. To I mean, my journey. Yeah, I had the chance to meet iEARN facilitators around the world, in person, of course, during the annual conference organized by iEARN in Doha and Winchester. So these events were transformative. Not only did I learn from their experiences, because when you work with your friends, when you work with your co-facilitators like Melissa or like Dawn, we learn a lot from each other. We learn a lot from each other. So not only did I learn from their experiences, but I also had the opportunity to share my own delivering workshops on my experience with PBL in Algeria and strategies to address uh, students dropout in online courses. Yes, I do not want to say a lot of things about this point because I'm coming it in another step in another slide. These conferences were a platform for exchanging best practices, strengthening my facilitation skills, and expanding my network. So you see here all the picture here, you see my friends attending, either it was virtually with Jennifer, attending my workshop in Doha, then all you see all my friends from all over the world attending the conference, either in Doha or in Winchester, and then we meet to evaluate our work. So you see, it's good to listen to facilitators because they have a lot to say, and we have a lot to learn from each other. So we move, Melissa, to the next slide. So the key insight, becoming a facilitator. I like this quote. Facilitating is not just about managing assignments. Of course, it's not only assignment, it is about building connection and fostering growth. If you look at this picture, which I like a lot, you know, it's me, of course, who is in the picture. And you see all the teachers here, and I see only smiling faces. And this is what I want to say by supporting teacher. It is by building this, maybe I can say friendly relationships, relaxing relationship. This is one of the role of the facilitator, okay? It is not just managing assignments, it's about building connections and fostering growth. Yes, initially, I trained teachers to introduce project-based learning in their classroom, helping them navigate the iEARN platform and work effectively on their assignment. Let me go and talk about guiding students. Yes, when we facilitate directly with students on a platform, my focus shifted to reading, of course. I read a lot the assignments of students, and this is what we have been doing in storytelling for social change. We've done. We read a lot. We read a lot. We have our feedback, our constructive feedback. I insist on constructive feedback on their assignment. Of course, there is tracking progress. There is tracking progress in order maybe to see what is happening, who is working, who is not, maybe who is having any problem. So we try to find solutions to this problem, and then we provide feedback. And of course, our role does not stop here. We have to encourage. A significant part of our role is encouraging participants. They need encouragement, reaching out to students who might be disengaged or struggling and motivating them to stay on track. This is very challenging. To keep students on track, it's really very, very challenging. The last point, addressing dropout, is also very challenging, but I want to talk about it in the next slide. Yes, Melissa? Good. So to talk about it, I would like you now, please, to watch a video that is coming. But before, okay, you have the question here. Please, before the video starts, oh, you can't? Really?
We can't hear you, Melissa. Can you unmic kindly? That's okay. Thank you.
Geez, yes, I have requested access to play it, but I have not received that access yet. If you have access, potentially we could play it on your screen, or we can leave the link in and allow folks to watch it later. I'm so sorry about that.
Well, mm,
And you are seeing firsthand some of the things that happen in virtual exchange, right? This is real life. These are the little things that happen that are unintended for. And so, these are real
maybe,
moments.
well, I haven't received the, not yet. Punch. Okay. No.
Perhaps we
Is it
can
possible to
cycle
come
back
back?
to this section. Yeah, and then
Maybe,
like,
maybe, maybe I can just tell about the video.
Sure.
Well, I can just tell the video. Well, the video happened in Winchester. I was given yeah, because I asked, what do you think the participant in this workshop are? Who do you think? Based on my interaction with Laura, can you guess how we know each other? What do you think the workshop is about? So this workshop was in Winchester. It was related to our work. I mean, as a facilitator in one project with iEARN, and in that project that connected students from the MENA, and I say students, not teachers, students from the MENA and the USA. What we have noticed is that we had a lot of dropouts. And here I started thinking of doing something, doing some research. Why do we have dropout? And this was the topic of my workshop. And in Winchester, the audience, in my audience, I had only facilitators who were interested in the topic because they all felt concerned. And it was very enriching because we shared ideas. Why do many students drop out? Of course, we had so many reasons, so many reasons. And Laura here in the video, Laura was simply my co-facilitator because we were working together. Okay, we were working together, and she helped a lot in the interaction. And in our group, we had some dropout. So this is, if you like, what the video was about. It was about thinking, reflecting about the dropout. What is the message here? I want to say to the YES alumni that our job is not at the level of assignment. It is also doing research, finding solutions to make things better, when facilitating. I think it's okay for the video. Maybe we move to the next. I'm sorry. So we move to the next slide, and I'm going to finish with the next slide. Yes. So a piece of advice I might give. So the first thing I would like to say, build strong foundation. Start with teachers' facilitation, if possible. Supporting teachers ensure that students are prepared and motivated for collaborative learning. Engage fully. Connect with students on personal level. It means do not consider them only as learners, but also as persons. They like when you call them, when you write to them, when they feel that you are interested in them. And foster a sense of belonging. You know, maybe I'm going to make you laugh. Some of the students say, whenever you talk to us, we feel that you are our grandpa. Yeah, but for us, you know, in our way of thinking, yes, why not? Yes. So this is small gestures and encouragement can have a huge impact on the students. So the thing also that I focus on is be organized. Time management, as you say, Melissa, at the beginning, is essential, especially when juggling multiple tasks like feedback, evaluation, and follow up, because sometimes we have so many things to do at the same time. Learn from others. Oh, this is very important. Engage with iEARN community, conferences, interactions. I'm receiving right now newsletters and getting engaged with Stephen's initiative, attending attending webinars are things very important. And of course, always celebrate progress.
Thank you,
You're
Mustafa.
welcome. You're welcome. I just want to say thank you very much for your attention and commitment to learning. I would like now the stage is for my co-facilitator, Don.
Wonderful. And one of the things is, I'll move it to Don's slide. One of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking, Mustafa, that thought would be both you and Don could reflect on, but was something I wanted to mention to the YES alumni. Those who did the practicum with us in storytelling gave us really valuable feedback, right? On the questions they were asking or the ways the students were engaging. And we asked for that. We wanted that. Kristen and I feel very strongly that we in order to make the program better, we need to talk to the people who are working with the students. They're the facilitators and the teachers, right? We need to hear from the students as well, but you all are the advocates and the windows into what is working and how the students are engaging. And I was reflecting on, that's not necessarily, and maybe Don can speak to this too, that's not necessarily how all programs work. So you really have to think about the way in which they're going to hear the feedback, since you are since, you may want to be the advocate for students. And, when someone gets feedback, if you feel like they're hearing it or not, I admittedly miss the mark a lot. And I don't hear the things that I should be hearing sometimes. So I appreciate the way that the facilitators in storytelling will tell me more than once, right? If it's really important and I'm not hearing you, you will remind me. And that's something that we've developed. But as you think about this as a part of your career, not everybody operates like that. And so part of your job as a facilitator is also to understand the organization in which you're facilitating with and how you interact within that. Does that make sense? And I'm going to hand it over to Don now.
It does. Yes.
Yes, that makes absolute sense. And like everything in life, every organization, team, project, workplace, there's always has its own like culture and way it does things. And so sometimes as a facilitator, if you're working on a long-term project, it would be best to kind of ask some more questions about how do I give feedback? If I think something could be improved, what's the best way to communicate that? And be committed to the vision that they have for the project, even if maybe you're like, this could be better, but maybe there's a vision and a purpose that you have yet to understand. So I sometimes use the word seek first to understand before being understood. And with that, my little activity here that you might have been looking at for quite some time, the question was, does this animal have 2 feet or 4 feet? And so if you said 2 feet, then maybe you see a duck or a bird. But if you said 4 feet, maybe you see like a bunny or a rabbit. And I use this analogy because this is a lot of what happens in facilitation. There's going to be multiple perspectives that are going to be happening at the same time. And the beauty of facilitation is to bring out those perspectives and to open the space for sharing. Melissa, could you go to the next slide, please? And so some of the ways that facilitators do this is by creating the space. And that is, even if you're virtually, you might have to, use more body language and be what I say, kind of extra, right? If I saw you in person, I probably am not going to talk to you and like lean in and say, I need you to be extra, because that would be weird. But in a virtual space, you are almost like trying to engage as if like you're on TV. And so it's a little bit, you have to be comfortable with it. One way I tell others to practice is it will just practice and record yourself on Zoom, because often if there are technology issues, no one will have their camera on, and it will be you looking at you. And so you still want to be of an engaging person. And so some of the words that always come to mind when people say about why do I like facilitation, these are the words. You've already heard some of these words already used by Mustafa. And I always think that safety is one of the strongest words. Our goal is to create a safe space that I'm meant to be a bit of a neutral person. I'm not there to advocate for any one person. I'm advocating for the group to speak, to dialogue, and share their opinions. I might have my own opinions, of course, but that's not why we're in that space. It's not about me. So I think that that's one of the things. What can be about you is all this activity that you show online, that can be all about you. But when it comes to hearing what people say, you want to bring that out in others, so they feel comfortable. Next slide, please. Some of the things that I think, well, when you're a facilitator, these are the words that come to mind when you feel like maybe you're struggling. Sometimes facilitation, you might have a really great group that's really engaged and talkative. And like Mustafa said, then you have other students that maybe like don't really attend that often, or they're not sure how to engage, or they're very quiet. And you don't really know what is happening, but you still move through that space. Some of the things that I think about is, facilitation is not debate. We're not here to debate if anybody is right or wrong. Every person is right, because if that's the way they feel, that's the way we respect them. It's their own truth. Think about triggers. Sometimes if a student or a person, anyone you facilitate with, starts telling a story that can be very emotionally charged, you might start thinking in your head, like, could this trigger someone else's emotions? And what will that do to the energy of what's happening? Also think about conflict that can happen. Facilitators always need to be prepared and engaged. So if you're unprepared, it can show. If you're unengaged, like your phone's going off and, other things are trying to connect with you while you're online. If there's a lot of people moving around in your background, your job is to like center the space. And that means being fully present. Because if everything else is happening around you, people will pay attention to that and not necessarily the space that you want them to be in. So the vibe is important. And other things, over talking. Sometimes this happens because we're nervous. But, take space, make space, right? So you take a little bit and you give a whole lot. Next slide, please, Melissa. So I'm always inspired by Mustafa, and we had a great conversation one time about using Canva. So I just like logged into Canva and I was like, what can I do here? And I came up with this. And my guess is that a lot of people are saying, well, how do I become a facilitator? So I'm going to go over each one of these sections and give you sort of my perspective, which my journey, it has a lot of similarities to Mustafa's. Next slide, please. So I love this quote. There are many paths, but only one journey. It's by a country singer in the United States called Naomi Judd. But anyways, I like this because I think that the journey and anything that you do, whether it's big or small, you know, is the point that you want to pay attention to. So the first thing, observe and participate. I highly encourage you to attend events online or in person to observe different facilitation styles. You've probably, since you already participated in some storytelling, you will see that Mustafa and we have different styles, but they both lead us to the same place. And I think that it's good to see how other people do things. There are many times when I've seen how Mustafa does something and I'm like, oh, I like that. I'm going to try that out, you know, and I hope that maybe in some small ways I might have, you know, also been a person where Mustafa said, oh, interesting, Dawn. I see how you did that. But we learn and grow by watching others. And so definitely do this. I give two suggestions here. So Leah's Global Circles is free. It's also sponsored by the Stevens Institute, and you can sign up. And there's lots of facilitators, and they actually talk about some really tough topics. So this would give you insight how people handle conflict. And these are open globally. So these are large. So you could just sit back and watch a little bit, engage a little bit, but they're great. I mean, I say large in that they're open to across the globe. So you may be in a group where there's people from all different countries with a lot of different perspectives. It's great. You sign up, and they're about like 3 to 4 weeks long. You just tune in once a week, but they're great. The other one is the Glow Conference. This is completely all about being online. And a lot of people present different things. Kristen and I presented this year talking about how to prepare youth for virtual exchange. And if you submit a proposal, which you will most likely get accepted if it's well written, and I'm sure if you take your time at it, it's a 24-hour conference. So the clock starts and just keeps on ticking. So that's not like you would have to be up at any interesting hour. You could do it according to your own time. And if you're accepted, it's fully free. All the sessions you can look at for free. And again, observe, connect. And if you just want to sit back and watch everybody, it's $10 USD. Next slide, please. Connect and join. So this is another way, network. How did I get to be where I was? Well, Mustafa even showed you his journey. It involved always connecting with other people. There's an intention about it. You want to make sure that, you know, you're connecting often either on LinkedIn, or you're building that relationship, you're nurturing it, you're wanting to learn from others. So one place that I definitely recommend is the World Council on Intercultural and Global Competence. It's completely free to join. It's people from all over the globe that care about those two topics. And yours truly right here is one of the co-coordinators for the virtual Intercultural and Global Competence Working Group. So if that's something you want to, you can join and then say, Dawn, I joined. I want to be involved in your group. And we meet occasionally. We have different co-coordinators from all over the globe that have meetings all different times. So it's not always just on a US time zone. So check that out. UNESCO Story Circles. I have a link. Let me see if that's in here. Yes, I have a link where you can learn about the Story Circles methodology. And what happens is that the World Council, the CEO or the head of the World Council works for UNESCO, and she at least once a year, does story circles. And what this is a form of intercultural communication according to a very specific style. And it's great. Like, some of the questions are wonderful. Like, the very opening question for story circles is, tell me the story of your name. Our names are the most beautiful words we will ever hear, and they were given to us with love and care by other people. So we always start with, tell me about your name. And then LinkedIn and Instagram, free, free, free. Oh, I just type in the words facilitation on Instagram and you will see all kinds of people pop up. And I'm just like, oh, I like what they're doing, follow. I like what they're doing, follow. This is how I keep building skills. This is how I keep seeing what other people are doing. I follow those who are leading. I'm happy to learn from them. Same thing with LinkedIn. I type the word facilitation and see what comes up. Maybe someone's doing something really great and I'll comment on it. And I'll say, oh, Mustafa, I really liked that resource you put together about the 3 phases of facilitation. That was great. Do you mind if I use that? May I repost that on my Insta or my LinkedIn? Automatic connection right there, and you keep moving forward. Next slide, please. Practice and build. Like Mustafa, I got my start in this from volunteering, because you need to build that profile. And so a lot of that will come by putting yourself out there. And putting yourself out there means that you do things for free, but people recognize your passion and then they'll start to pay you for it. I really got my start in virtual facilitation during the pandemic. It was my pivot. And I realized that, oh, I can take this bubbly personality that I have in person and apply it online. It translated very well for me because of my natural disposition. But a lot of it was volunteering and a lot of it was local. Just like Mustafa, I went locally, regionally, nationally, and then internationally. But the first volunteering and facilitating that I got was with the Denver World Council. And it was on a grant. And I volunteered to sign up to lead some conversations between US students with students in Iraq. And that was my first taste of it, but it was through a local agency right there in my own backyard. And then I just kept building from there. So connecting. Think about facilitation very broadly. It can be for anything and anyone, young or older individuals, parents, colleagues, family. Facilitation is just about dialogue and bringing that together and talking about, like, people to people and maybe some intercultural pieces. And all of us have something that we care about for our own culture that we'd like to discuss with others or across cultures. And then you're already alumni, so tap into that network even more. Also look for nonprofits and NGOs operating in your country, and libraries. Wow, I've had great opportunities with my local library, just seeing what they're doing. And, book clubs involves facilitation. All of these things involve some sort of dialogue. And some terms to look for when you're, thinking about facilitation jobs. Facilitators are often called mentors, conversation guides, dialogue guides. So these are the words that I'm looking for when I'm thinking about how do I find jobs. Dialogue is just like one word I'll drop in. Dialogue jobs, dialogue volunteering, and to see what Google Land wants to tell me. Next slide, please. Core skills. Look for free opportunities to build your knowledge. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can build your knowledge. And, there's different, trainings, workshops. One of the things that places that I really like to build knowledge, I'm going to drop it in here as well too, is with the Greater Good Science Center out of Berkeley, UC Berkeley in the US. I received their Edutopia is another one that I like, but it's really engaged, like down for like K-12. But the Greater Good is really about people bridging differences. And so that means people to people and culture. And they give a lot of things for free. You know, you can sign up for a webinar, or if they have like a full training, if you email them, they'll often give you scholarships for it. You know, so it's a great way to like get another certificate and learn more skills. Currently, right now, I'm taking their Bridging Differences course, and I have found it to be quite exemplary. I have 5 more to go, but it's wonderful. And a lot of it is very science-based. So, and gives you lots of resources. So you can feel like you're learning from like someone who's actually done some studies about what works when it comes to bridging differences. Next slide. All right. Woo. I feel like I have talked so fast just to make sure I squeeze everything in on time. But I have loved getting to know you. I mean, I felt so honored to be able to share space with you when we were doing the small group facilitation course. Please keep in touch. There's my LinkedIn. I post things a lot. I am celebratory of others. And it's a way to, again, connect and build more profiles. And with that, I'm going to breathe. I think I'm going to take a breath.
All right. And we are very close to time. So we're
Yes, I
actually
see
at the
that.
place for questions from our participants. And I just want to thank you both so much. It's been wonderful to see your journeys, to see the ways in which they were kind of similar and different, and hear the advice and the resources that you have for folks in your joy in continually learning, right? Because that's why we're all here. We're all learners together. So I don't know if any of our participants on right now, Lindsay, Shireen, if you are able to come off of mute, if you have any questions or you'd like to just to say hi.
Hello, everyone. So I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say that I am happy that I participated in this workshop and that I am going to use these skills in my future projects.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we loved having you with us and we're so thrilled.
Thank you so much, Shireen. Please, if you are on LinkedIn, reach out and connect with me. Because one of the other things that I do is because I've been in this industry for a little while and I work on a lot of projects, people have a project, they email me about it or they message me, do you know anybody that's in this area? And I'm like, let me think. And then I go through my LinkedIn like a Rolodex. And then I'm like, oh yes, I know this person, this person, this person. I like to think of myself as a super connector.
Love it. Love it. And Lindsay said, hi, thank you. This was so informative and I love being a part of this. So thank you. And we loved having you. And we'll send a virtual hello to all of our classmates who will be watching this later. Folks, after I turned off the recording, I'm going to go through the notes, the chat, and make sure that anything that was shared in chat that is a resource for you is either included in the email or included in the PowerPoint slide. If it's okay with both of our facilitators, I'll send the PowerPoint out to everybody so that you have all of that. And I'll also send a link to where we've posted this. We are at time, and I would just want to thank everyone for their time. I want to thank Don and Mustafa for sharing with us in this learning and for being a part of this really beautiful journey with us with our iEARN USA alumni. We just got a taste of some of the really amazing, wonderful people who have done this program and continue to do good work in the world. Yes, so thank you all, and I will stop our recording now.